everybody. This is Nisi, and this is Sis with Is to Say. Now, I know it's been just a little while. It hasn't been too long, but just a little while since I made a video. But I'm back. Have no fear. I'm back. And before we get started, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And ring the bell so that you're notified every time I got Ish to Say. Because you know, I got Ish to Say about everything. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, before I even get into this story, I'm just gonna let this be my story time. Because I'm just gonna let this be my story time. But it's a true story about somebody that I actually know. So, okay, here it is. The story is she's in love with a crackhead. She's in love with a crackhead, man. So, this is actually about my friend. And she knows I'm going to say all this stuff. And she's okay with it. And plus, I'm not using her name. So, nobody knows. She told me the story. She didn't tell anybody else. So, it is safe between me and my girl. Okay? So, I have a friend that is actively looking for love. Like, she's like, hey, we are coming up on 40. It's time to stop playing around. And she looking for love. Okay. So she let me know, like, she was in Target. And this guy approached her. Well, he approached her, said something like kind of funny. And she kind of giggled. And it kind of just went on about her way. And then they bumped into each other again. And then he was just like, hey, I want to know if I can get to know you a little bit better. And, possibly take you out. And so she agreed. She gave him her number. And she was like, he's a little shorter than what I prefer. But hey, I don't want to block my blessing. This could be the man that, is going to just knock me off my feet. I don't want to block my blessing because he's not as tall as I usually like my man to be. So while they're talking and exchanging information, he's like, you'll never guess how old I am. How old do you think I am? And she was like, well, I don't know. I don't know. And he was like, well, I'm 52. And so she said, like, it wasn't like it was a big shocker, like he looked like he could be between, mid 40s and, early 50s. So I wasn't too shocked. But, he just made it like, whoa, wait till I tell you this. Wait till I tell you this. I'm 52. And she was like, you looking. So, he calls her a couple of days later. And she was busy, and so he let her know, like, he works from 4:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. So he like, let's just, talk tomorrow when you got a little bit more time. So the next day comes, and they have a conversation. They're doing all the preliminary, getting to know you questions. And he says, like, I don't want to scare you off when I tell you this, because usually, women get scared when I tell them, when I tell them how old I am. And so she's thinking, like, okay, is he not 52, And she's like, well, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 52. And she's like, oh, well, you told me that already. He's like, I did. And she was like, yeah, you told me that already. Like, okay, that's fine. I don't got no problem with you being 52. Like, that's fine. Okay. And so, she told him how old she is. She's 36. And he was like, I wouldn't think you was 36. You like you're in your 20s. I think he was just putting a little cheese on it. You know what I'm saying? Now, no shade to my girl. You know, my girl looks good. But she look like she could be in her 30s. I think he was just trying to, or maybe he just not a good, he don't just, you know, gauge the age over there well. But, she said she was 36. And, you know, so like they're talking and she asked him if he has kids. And he's like, no. And she was like, well, wow, you know, how did you, you know, manage that? Because she was like, he's nice looking. He's like in, you know, in shape. So, you know. And so he kind of gives her like the, do you really, and so she like, is it that deep? And he like, usually when I tell people this, they don't believe me. Do you really want to know? And she's like, well, you know, look, like, if you're not comfortable with telling me, we don't have to talk about it. Like, you don't have to tell me. He was like, yeah, you know, I'll tell you when I get to know you a little bit better. And she's like, oh, okay, that's fine. So, he said that he's from the Waukegan area. Now, like I mentioned before, I'm in the Chicagoland area, and Waukegan is more so northern and a little bit closer. It's not too far from, you know, the city, not too far from Chicago. And my friend is in like the Naperville, Aurora area, which is further west, which is maybe like 30 to 45 minutes away from Chicago. So he was saying, like, you know, he's from the Waukegan area, and I guess a family member was having like a birthday party, and he was like really excited about this birthday party because he said that, you know, that's what most of his family is in Waukegan, and he's been in like the Naperville, Aurora area since June, and it's been a long time since, you know, he really got to go out and have fun. He was like, because mostly he's a homebody. He's okay with going to work, coming home, you know, no, going to work, going to the gym, because he said he, you know, she did say he was like, you know, built nice, and coming home, relaxing, and just watching the game. Like, he don't have to, you know, do too much of anything. Like, he was just like, you know, like, I'm not, like, please don't ask me to go to no club, because I'm not trying to go to no club, like, you know. And so she's like, you know, I'm a little too old to be kind of going to the club too, so, like, I don't really like going to the club either. So, he was, like, going on and on about this birthday party. And so she was like, so what, you don't have any friends? Like, you just go to work, come home, and just do nothing? And then he go with the and so it's like he got something to say, but he don't really know how she gonna take it. But he like, it's coming time, I gotta say it. So he was like, so you know that Target I met you at? And she was like, yeah. And he was like, well, behind that Target, it's a halfway house, and I live in that halfway house. And he was like, now I just want to be honest, because I'm not a liar, you know, and I don't like people to lie to me, so I'm not going to lie to you. But don't judge me, you know, don't judge me from what I'm telling you. And he said, it's not court ordered or nothing like that, like I wasn't in jail or anything. It's just that my life was spiraling out of control, and I just felt like I needed to go into a halfway house. So he said that he was in the halfway house. He came to the halfway house in June, that he wants to leave the halfway house in February, that he don't really do nothing with his money. So, you know, he's saving his money so he can get a place and get a car. So my friend was like, well, when you met me, you asked to take me out. So what, you were gonna ask me to pick you up? And so he was like, that's the thing, like, it would have came out anyway, you know, so there's no need to lie, like it would have came out anyway. And so, like, my friend is really sweet, a tad bit naive, but she is like really sweet. So she's just like still trying to just wrap her head around it. And she was like, so you weren't, the court didn't have you go into a halfway house? And he was like, no, it's not that. It's just I want to change my life. So I went to the halfway house. And so she was like, so you've never been to jail? And he was like, nah, I've never been to jail. And she was like, so you've never been to jail? I've been to jail, but it's been like some county stuff, you know? And then she was like, so you've never been to prison? And he was like, nah, I've never been to prison. And so she asked him again. She was like, so you've been to county, but you never been in the state prison? And he was like, I mean, I've been to prison, but that was in the 90s. And she was like, okay. But like she said, she didn't want to ask him about like the drugs because she didn't want to offend him. So she said, okay, so what was going on in your life that you felt like, you know, you needed to go into a halfway house? And he was like, man, you know, I was in these streets. He was like, you know, I was in the streets, and, you know, and I just knew I needed to get out of the streets before, you know, I either killed somebody or, you know, I got killed or I was in jail. So she says, you were in the streets in your 50s? Like, really? Like, come on now. Like, now, regardless of where you are in life now, most of us know hood stuff. Most of us have known people that have probably sold drugs, been in a gang, gone to jail, been an addict, been on drugs. You know, some of us, you know, we know that. So even like with that, like you do that, like run the streets, in the street stuff, kind of like when you like teens, early 20s, but mid 20s to 30s, like you were OG, okay? You're not in the streets. Like that's just unheard of, okay? So he talking about he been in the streets teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And it's like, dude, okay? Like that ain't no good story. Like you should laugh about that, because that ain't no good story. And then also, it's a common rule in the Chicagoland area that when your life is going going in the wrong direction, you either move to Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, or Springfield. Okay? You don't voluntarily go to a halfway house. The only time you go to a halfway house is if you've been in jail, you got to spend a few months in the halfway house to ease you back into society, or if you was doing a little booger sugar, or if you was, you know, do a little smoking, a little, you know, if you're doing them things, and, you know, they need to have you in an area where they know, like, you know, you're going to be monitored, but you're not in rehab, and you're not out around the same people that you was doing the little with. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just common. Like, you know hood stuff, you kind of know that, you know. So, you know, my friend was talking, and he, you know, so I'm like, are you believing this? Because she was kind of looked like she kind of like debating, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to block my blessing. And I'm like, girl, he a crackhead. If he was not in jail, that little booty was a crackhead. And that's what it is. And hey, look, I'm glad he's somewhere getting his life together. But if you're in a halfway house, the last thing you need to be thinking about is trying to find somebody to date. I'm sorry. And so then he asked her, like, if she goes to church. She said, yeah. He was like, what time church is over? She told him what time church is usually over. He was like, cool. Like, maybe we can do something. You know what I'm saying? You want to scoop me up? Don't nobody want to scoop up no 52-year-old. No. And no. Don't nobody want to scoop up no 52-year-old. Don't nobody want to be in their 30s, you know, pretty much established, you know, like the foundation, a place to stay, a job, and a car. Like, don't nobody want to have to build a, like, you know, build a man. Like, don't nobody want to have to do that. Now, if you all are together, and that, you know, when, you know, stuff happens, like, you know, we all, you know, have, you know, can fall on hard times, and you're in a relationship with that person, is no problem with upbuilding that person. But look, you gotta have something to come to the table with too. And I think maybe he was thinking like she was young and she was gonna be impressed, but like 52, you're supposed to be well established. You're not supposed to be talking about, I'm trying to get my life together and I was in the streets. So honestly, I don't really know if he's a crackhead. I'm thinking he's a crackhead. I'm voting crackhead, but you know, he might not be. Oh, he could have just, you know, just gotten out of jail. Because she did say, you know, he's kind of built. He could have just gotten out of jail and he kind of embarrassed, don't want to talk about just getting out of jail. Needless to say, my friend is no longer talking to him. And she is not looking like, I might be blocking my blessing. At least I hope not. So that's all I have today. Let me know. Comment. Do you think he was a crackhead? Because I'm thinking he a crackhead. This is me. I mean, like I say, I don't know everything. I just be having ish to say about it. So, that's all I have today. And before you leave me, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so that you're notified every time I got is to say. Love you guys. Hope you miss me.